In 1975, Italian jazz rock band Nova released their debut album Blink on Arista, and from it the track Stroll On. Elio, Diana. On soprano sax. Okay, that was quite a bait and switch, and yeah, we're heading into really a real ruckus here, produced by Rupert Hine. That is news to me. Okay, the drummer kicking up all that dust right there is Franco Loprevite, and he had been in Circus 2000 and Duello Madre before this. Two impressive acts.
I just don't hear your music in my head. Think I'd better stroll home to bed. There's other things to do than sit here watching you, watching me. There's so much in this room that I can't take. There's number going down that I can't make.
Wow, this is just a drumming extravaganza. Of course, the guitar played by Corrado Rustici is trying hard to compete, or by two guys, and that him and Danilo Rustici, I would imagine brothers. And yeah, I'm getting kind of, well, first of all, it seems kind of like a jazzier take on some of the progressive hard rock that was going on at the time. And I'm also, it recalls the brass rock from earlier in the decade more than the contemporary jazz rock of, say, Return to Forever. Yeah, it's almost kind of like they're keeping the flame of bands like If and their ilk alive mid-decade.
Fog's closing in, the lights growing dim. I'm gonna leave before it's time to leave. Hey.
This is almost like another way in which brass rock could have evolved into the mid to later 70s had it fused more with hard rock than, say, funk. And yeah, because like now we're getting these kind of like dissonant saxy blasts just flanking the what's that those like rapid fire drum rolls and sizzling guitars that are taking the center of the framework. It seems like the guitar was almost kind of like mirroring the sax at times, and the bass was actually guiding things along. I just started to appreciate that thing. that was the brothers, well, one of them anyway, giving us some rapid fire licks there that just wouldn't quit. And then while the other one was kind of taking the background and giving us some wah-wah subtly, like, and meanwhile the bass work bobbing around, played by Luciano Milanese, who has a list of credits mostly in like jazz combos and such. Yeah.
You listen to, but I can hear you speak. I'm sick and tired of endless hide and seek. There's nothing here but absence and fear. We could sit for hours and hours and fail to meet. Don't worry about a thing, 'cause I get time to go. Some things you can learn, some things never know.
The vocals kind of remind me more of like 1970, 71. They're just kind of like bellowing outward, upward, trying to like make their way over the sonic assault of everything.
Be alone, stay here on my own.
Because like 1970 was a time when a lot of vocalists were like struggling to like keep up with the intensity that the music, the newfound intensity that the music was taking on. But by the mid 70s, bands of this sort, when they did employ vocals, they were trying to look for guys that had more of kind of a like sonorous quality to them, like a soulful depth in their voice and such. And the vocals seem kind of like an afterthought, and that's like an element that would be played down on subsequent albums by Nova, where they went more in a contemporary jazz rock vein. Okay, now that was definitely Elio Diana, the saxist moment to shine there, or one of them anyway. And he had been in Osanna and Cita Frontale and the Osanna spin-off Uno, along with guitarist Danilo Rustici was in all those projects, while the other Rustici was in Cervello. Yeah, this is basically like an Italian rock supergroup.
I can hear you speak. I'm sick and tired of endless hide and seek. There's nothing here but absence and fear. We could sit for hours and hours and fail to meet. Don't worry about a thing, 'cause I get time to go. Some things you can learn and some things never know. I'd rather be alone than stay here on my own, taking some other.
There might be some percussion in the mix here, played by Morris Pert. Yeah, he's credited, but not. They don't specify where. Credited as Maurice Pert. Yeah. Slower, deeper, more bluesy guitar solo this time. I love those tones. It's like a mixture of fuzz and wah. Distortion and wah, I should say. And in comes that flangy, fuzzy, kind of like enveloped sax that sounds like it's being fed through the same pedals as the guitar. All that intensity and involvement with hardly any key changes. Mostly G minor the entire time. Yeah. Yeah, that was Nova with Stroll On from their 1975 release, Blink. One of those files that has a little bit of... Oh, here we go. I just kind of love the almost like foot-locked feel of the rhythm. While there was like all this like noise and dissonance coming from every direction. It was kind of like, and yeah, I can't really pick my favorite player out of this. They were all just like just generating all these fireworks off one another the whole entire time. Like some of the best guitar work I've heard anywhere. Now this makes me want to go back and pay more attention to these two brothers. Well, especially the one who... both the brothers are credited with lead guitar on this track. Yeah, go back and listen to both of them more, and the other work they've done specifically for their guitar work. Of course, the sax playing was just, you know, cutting through and just from left and right, and playing under them, playing over at times. And then the ultimate dominating force was the rhythm section. Most specifically, the rapid fire drumming that just wouldn't quit. Played by, I guess the only like main line. Oh no, he goes back to Circus 200. I was about to say the bassist is the mainline jazz guy. Yeah, he's played like in a bunch of jazz combos that the names of which I don't recognize. But the other guys all come from like the post-psych Italian rock pedigree from various bands, and including the drummer, just a powerhouse that wouldn't quit throughout the track. And some of the best, yeah, another one of those drummers that has me reevaluating who are the greatest drummers of all time. And I suddenly think, I need to go listen and see, listen hard, specifically to his work to see, does he deserve to be up in the company of like Charlie Antolini and John Heisman and some of those guys, yeah. And vocals were handled by Corrado Rustici, one of the guitarists. And it seems like he was just kind of shouting over all the loudness to be heard. In a way, kind of like Keith Ralph on that Armageddon album. And kind of like a lot of singers were doing back in 1970-71 when everyone was trying to catch up with like Ian Gillan. And few managed, but and so I didn't. The lyrics aren't printed anywhere, and I think that would be a side attraction if you have access to them. Oh, they are printed on the back cover. Aren't we lucky? Here, just a second. Oh well, maybe Discogs will truly earn its keep as the all-purpose album guide on the internet, but. There is not a scan that's large enough to read the small white type over the black background on the back cover on Blink. And anyway, but since they actually took the time to print out the lyrics, I'm going to have to assume that there's something substantive. So if you know the lyrics to this track, yeah, and you want to comment on them, please do, if it's something consequential or intriguing. Anyway. Yeah, Nova, they would put out 4 albums between 1975 and 1978. This one produced by Rupert Hine around the same time he was involved in Quantum Jump. Between the 2 phases of his solo career and before he got more involved as a producer in the late 70s for the likes of Anthony Phillips, Cafe Jocks, Camel, and Saga. And then later on, he would become the studio mastermind behind The Fix. And all of these guys probably had great futures ahead of them, even beyond Nova, given their talents. It's like Corrado Rustici played on some albums by Narada Michael Walden. And so, yeah, some of the... And Angela Bofill and Stacey Ladisaw. And so some of these people had musical... contact or would gain musical contacts well outside the Italian or European scene, deservedly so, given the talent and the virtuosity and the chops that we heard on display on this recording. And funny enough, back on the old Gibraltar Encyclopedia of Progressive Rock, remember that database? One of the contributors to the Nova entry said that this band evolved out of a jam session or something involving Pete Townsend. I'm wondering how that could have been possible. So Pete Townsend was like in Italy and called together a jam session, and some of the guys, some of the locals who were involved decided to form a band. I don't know. I've since there have been a couple of times where I've done internet searches to see where I've like typed the name Pete Townsend Nova to see if there's any other confirmation of a link there, but I haven't come up with anything. Anyway, yeah. So I'm just gonna have to let that one go. Anyway, yeah, Nova put out this album and then 2 more albums that were kind of more in a conventional, I think, RTF vein, and then a 4th, which I haven't even worked through. Yeah. For more Rubies and Sapphires from the first 3 Nova albums, see the directory of albums by Italian artists linked in the description below for Red Hot tracks and purples from the first 3 Nova albums, as well as many other Italian albums, including the other acts that I mentioned that the members were involved in, like Circus 2000, Duello Madre, Osanna, Sita Frontel, Uno, yeah, and many others, including acts that were more similar to this vein, like Aria, RDE, Maestre, and Etna, the whole Italian jazz rock, as well as symphonic rock, hard rock, library music, folk rock, singer-songwriter, new wave, electronic, yeah. Over 700 titles on the Italian directory. Like and subscribe, follow me on social media, share the video, and leave a comment if there are any observations you have about the track we just heard, the interplay, the harmonics, the intensity, the composition, the drumming, the bass work, the guitar soloing, the fiery passages, the sax work, yeah. Who is the best soloist? Yeah, and the lyrics if you have any observations about those. And until next time, this is Zaragon, the world's most ear travel maximalist, signing off.